I know,
Oh,
I know. I realize that. I know.
that's great. Great conversation, guys. Okay, it is time to start our reading. So I am going to share my screen, and we are on A Course in Miracles Manual for Teachers, number 14. How will the world end? Can what has no beginning really end? The world will end in an illusion as it began. Yet, will its ending be an illusion of mercy, the illusion of forgiveness, complete, excluding no one, limitless in gentleness, will cover it, hiding all evil, concealing all sin, and ending guilt forever? So ends the world that guilt made, for now it has no purpose and is gone. The father of illusions is the belief that they have a purpose, that they serve a need or gratify a want. Perceived as purposeless, they're no longer seen. Their usefulness, their uselessness is recognized and they are gone. How but in this way are all illusions ended? They've been brought to truth, and truth saw them not. It merely overlooked the meaningless. Until forgiveness is complete, the world does have a purpose. It becomes the home in which forgiveness is born, and where it grows and becomes stronger and more all embracing. Here is it nourished, for here it is it needed. A gentle Savior, born where sin was made and guilt seemed real. Here is his home, for here there is need of him indeed. He brings the ending of the world with him. It is his call God's teachers answer, turning to him in silence to receive his word. The world will end when all things in it have been rightly judged by his judgment. The world will end with the benediction of holiness upon it. When not one thought of sin remains, the world is over. It will not be destroyed, nor attacked, nor even touched. It will merely cease to seem to be. Certainly, this seems to be a long, long while away. When not one thought of sin remains, appears to be a long range goal indeed. But time stands still and waits on the goal of God's teachers. Not one thought of sin will remain the instant any one of them accepts at one moment for himself. It is not easier to forgive one sin than to forgive all of them. The illusion of orders of difficulty is an obstacle the teacher of God must learn to pass by and leave behind. One sin perfectly forgiven by one teacher of God can make salvation complete. Can you understand this? No, it is meaningless to anyone here. Yet, it is the final lesson in which unity is restored. It goes against all thinking of the world, but so does heaven. The world will end when its thought system has been completely reversed. Until then, bits and pieces of its thinking will still seem sensible. The final lesson, which brings the ending of the world, cannot be grasped by those not yet prepared to leave the world and go beyond its tiny reach. What then is the function of the teacher of God in this concluding lesson? He need merely learn how to approach it, to be willing to go in its direction. He need merely trust that if God's voice tells him it is a lesson he can learn it. He does not judge it either as hard or easy. His teacher points to it, and he trusts that he will show him how to learn it. The world will end in joy because it is a place of sorrow. When joy has come, the purpose of the world has gone. The world will end in peace because it is a place of war. When peace has come, what is the purpose of the world? The world will end in laughter because it is a place of tears. Where there is laughter, who can longer weep? And only complete forgiveness brings all this to bless the world. In blessing it departs, for it will not end as it began. To turn hell into heaven is the function of God's teachers. For what they teach are lessons in which heaven is reflected. And now sit down in true humility and realize that all God would have you do, you can do. Do not be arrogant and say you cannot learn His own curriculum. His word says otherwise. His will be done. It cannot be otherwise. And be you thankful it is so. All righty then. Well, that answered a lot of questions, a lot of conversations we had already this morning. Right? Because every time we get pulled into the drama, it takes us away from our true purpose. Hey, Tim, welcome. It's been a long time. Great to have you here. We are reading from the Manual of Teachers, and we just read How Will the World End? Number 14. We've been having some good conversations earlier. Anybody want to talk about this? What does it mean?
Well, I think the first sentence is a question, but I think it answered the question.
Right. I think too, again, because A Course in Miracles is all about the experience, right? Which is the purpose of the lessons. I think it's part of being in the chaos, but not experiencing it as the chaos, right? Instead, bringing your light and your love and not having judgment, bringing your light and your love and not attaching to a story or an outcome, bringing your light and your love and just seeing and sharing that light and love with everyone, regardless of their actions or their supposed beliefs, which we know are not true because it's all aligned with fear, right? And only love is real. So it's
Compassion.
being in the world, but not of the world in a way that you can see the Christ in others and be that love, that loving, energetic force without feeling attacked, right? All attack is merely a cry for love.
Compassion.
Tim, you're muted, so we cannot hear you.
Well, it's a whole concept of the darkness being part of the light. That is, it's all together. I mean, we make, for example, they know that galaxies combine in the cosmos out there, and they also believe that our particular galaxy was one that came together, and though we may see that as chaos and planets crashing and clashing, that all of that eventually becomes another galaxy of cohesion. So I don't know. I've been reading about this whole concept. I read something recently that said that the column of golden light will come to darkness and create crevices, and then light will come out of that darkness, or something like that. I understood. So
yeah, and the column of that golden light is us.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Welcome, Carol. Great to have you here. Yeah, and because we are so focused on this world and what we can see from these bodies and measure and what we can see in the galaxies and what we can take pictures of with our machines, we become so invested in it, right? But it's still part of the illusion. It's still part of our the essence of who we are is still not that, right? The essence of who we are comes into these bodies and can see with the eyes of the body, which is still part of the illusion. And we still have a choice to say, okay, there's more than that. I'm more than that. I'm more than these eyes. I'm more than this body. I'm more than this world. What am I? Who am I? Right?
We're part of all of it.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
And,
Exactly.
and that's a concept that it's we don't have an image of what that is, but we know that's part of it somehow, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are part of that dust, that stardust, and we are probably the dust itself, right? That little particle in
Yeah.
this huge thing that we're looking at, right? And it
The
seems to
word,
get bigger. Seems to get bigger every time they put a telescope out there.
I know. Yeah.
Mhm.
And notice I said it seems to get bigger.
But
That's
if you
the key
think
word.
about it, it says to turn hell into heaven is the function of God's teachers, right? For what they teach are lessons in which heaven is reflected. And now sit down in true humility and realize that all God would have you do, you can do, because who is God?
Moi.
Right, right, right. We keep wanting to push that outside of ourselves too and say, well, God is that thing out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we focus on, like, does something have to end to have something new? And it's just, change is always a constant. And so, yes, technically something ends or it fades out of the focus. It fades into a different placement. It doesn't necessarily go away totally, but it's no longer our focus, like our childhood, and we become grown. And so, if we start to look at things again from a more inclusive, all encompassing, then we're not looking at opposites, which tend to be scary. Like, I'm either going to have this or that. The world's going to end. Oh my God, I can't lose this world that I know. And you don't, because in God's world, you never lose anything. It's all to gain. It's all for expansion. You can always go back and explore that which you used to find was the center of your focus, but no longer is now, because something even more wonderful is that new focus. And so as we learn to, not look at these opposites as hard facts, but just as part of a whole with all the other choices, all the other aspects in between, it's much easier to make the transitions, because fear isn't, as it doesn't come up as strong.
Yeah, and in the first paragraph, perceived as purposeless, they are no longer seen. Their usefulness, their uselessness is recognized and they are gone. How
Yeah.
but in this way are all illusions ended? They've been brought to truth, and truth saw them not. It merely overlooked the meaningless, right? So it's not like something like Mary said, it's not like the whole world gets ripped out from under your feet. It's like you just realize that it's meaningless, that it's purposeless, and you see a new world. You see heaven.
That's where I see, I agree with it. Really, really good stuff being shared. And I just wanted to stress, although stress is stress is sort of a mandatory word, and we don't want stress either. Anyway, highly recommended that if you're not meditating, to meditate and just be with these lessons. I get them through a fellow that reads them. Well, he's passed on now, but I swear, if Christ has a voice, it's in this guy.
Mm.
And Martin Caspers, I think is his name. Anyway, that's exactly what happens when you're meditating, though, is that this world loses its value. That peace that seeps into you is like it just drops away. It's sort of like being given the image of the statue that many statues that were carved, that they asked the sculptor, so how did you carve this? He says, well, I saw the image in the marble and I focused on that image, and he didn't see the cube of marble at all. Just saw he understood that he could do that was attainable. And that's what happens to us, is that attainability it's innately there because it's the only thing that's real.
Yeah.
Everything else, all the other stuff falls away. And it's maybe a statue is a poor example, but the way we get to that is to allow ourselves to be changed, to be chipped away, and we find that that didn't hurt. That only hurts if I take the position of my ego, thinking that I'm right. So it's allowing that invulnerability into us that makes us basically bulletproof. I mean, go ahead and kill me if you want, but I'll still be here.
Yeah.
So anyway,
It's definitely part of your choices, right? Am I going to align with fear or love?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just that simple.
Yeah. Hi, Pam. Great to have you here. Hi, Gail.
Hi.
You are both here now.
Yeah.
Good
We
to be
are
here.
in the Manual for Teachers. We're just about ready to read number 15.
15.
All right, let's keep going and we'll have more conversation. Number 15, Manual for Teachers. Is each one to be judged in the end? Indeed, yes. No one can escape God's final judgment. Who could flee forever from the truth? But the final judgment will not come until it is no longer associated with fear. One day, each one will welcome it, and on that very day, it will be given him. He will hear his sinlessness proclaimed around and around the world, setting it free as God's final judgment on him is received. This is the judgment in which salvation lies. This is the judgment that will set him free. This is the judgment in which all things are freed with him. Time pauses as eternity comes near, and silence lies across the world that everyone may hear this judgment of the Son of God. Holy are you, eternal, free and whole, at peace forever in the heart of God. Where is the world? And where is sorrow now? Is this your judgment on yourself, teacher of God? Do you believe that this is wholly true? No, not yet, not yet. But this is still your goal, why you are here. It is your function to prepare yourself to hear this judgment and to recognize that it is true. One instant of complete belief in this, and you will go beyond belief to certainty. One instant out of time can bring time's end. Judge not, for you but judge yourself, and thus delay this final judgment. What is your judgment of the world, teacher of God? Have you yet learned to stand aside and hear the voice of judgment in yourself? Or do you still attempt to take his role from him? Learn to be quiet, for his voice is heard in stillness, and his judgment comes to all who stand aside in quiet listening and wait for him. You who are sometimes sad and sometimes angry, who sometimes feel your just due is not given you, and your best efforts meet with lack of appreciation and even contempt. Give up these foolish thoughts. They're too small and meaningless to occupy your holy mind an instant longer. God's judgment waits for you to set you free. What can the world hold out to you, regardless of your judgments on its gifts, that you would rather have? You will be judged, and judged in fairness and in honesty. There's no deceit in God. His promises are sure. Only remember that. His promises have guaranteed his judgment, and his alone will be accepted in the end. It is your function to make that end be soon. It is your function to hold it to your heart and offer it to all the world to keep it safe. I love that last part, right? Because of all the times we judge and say, this isn't fair and this is unjust, right? And we hold a grievance. And the last sentence said, it is your function to hold it in your heart and offer it to all the world to keep it safe. So we think we're protecting the world by holding fast to our judgments, but instead, we're just keeping it from being safe.
Good.
So, I'm sorry.
So go.
It seems to be saying two different things. God's judgment waits to set you free, and then you will be judged and judged in fairness and honesty. So I thought God did not judge.
And I think what it's saying is the judgment that God is saying is that you are holy, eternal, free and whole, at peace forever. So the judgment I think that they're talking about is the true recognition of who you are. I think in our mind, we think judgment is a bad thing because we're holding a grievance against somebody. But in the mind of God, judgment is simply, you're a holy child of God. You are innocent and free and you have not sinned.
So it's kind of like a two-sided double statement. Even though we are going to be judged, the judgment is that we are holy.
Kind of. And I think that's also part of our early conditioning and to understand what is judgment, right? Because we've been taught that judgment is something you do when you feel like you've been wronged, right? And
Right.
that's been our entire experience of what judgment is. It's something that's laid down upon you when, or a person that has done something, a grievance, committed a grievance, right? And what God is saying is true judgment is just seeing the truth of who you are, right? It's just a different interpretation of the word.
So it's ego versus God, basically. It's
Yeah, I mean the
definition of judgment.
right. Actually, let me read in the glossary index what judgment is, right?
Good.
So
Yeah, and while you're looking that up, Terry, it's judgment in this case. It's like that's what it is, and therefore there's no need. If you know exactly what something is, we are, holy children of God or whatever. Once that is the fact, then there's no need to have any other judgment, because nothing is more supreme or all-encompassing than that. So it eliminates the need for any other judgment or commentary, if you will, because it's all inclusive
Right.
in that
Good, Mary.
thing.
Good.
Yeah. So in the glossary index, it says judgment based on knowledge. Strictly speaking, God does not judge, since what he creates is perfect and at one with him. The course's reference to God's judgment reflects his recognition of his son as his son, forever loved and one with him. And the
Yeah.
perception, so condemnation of judgment, is whereby people are separated into those to be hated and those to be loved, a judgment always based upon the past. And vision, whereby people are seen either as expressing love or calling for it, a judgment inspired by the Holy Spirit and always based upon the present. I don't know if that helped or not.
And the concept is that we are sinless,
Mm.
that we have committed no sins. So
I struggle with this because
sure.
I see the behaviors of others that are affecting people
Yeah.
in a very
Yeah.
bad way. And I have a hard time separating myself from that judgment, even though I realize that God ultimately does not judge and that we should not judge. But there are behaviors that I don't care to emulate, and I wish were not present in others. And I don't know quite how to treat that in my mind.
Right. And so part of the Course in Miracles, the practice is to see the Christ in others, right? Again and
Right.
again and again and again and again. And
Mhm.
when we get to the place where we can be in the chaos, right? And still be present and knowing the truth of who we are as love and the one mind of God. And we can see that love in our brother, regardless of what they're doing, right? So if you think all attack is merely a cry for love, if you can answer that with love, right? And connect with the one mind of love in your brother, that's where the miracle happens, right? That's where real change can take place. And that's when they talk about when the student is ready, which being the student, the teacher appears, which is my willingness to listen to the Holy Spirit, right? So I am both the student and the teacher because I'm willing to listen. I'm ready to listen to the Holy Spirit. When we come into a place like that, where we are in those situations that are chaotic, right? And someone comes to us, say, for example, and they have something to say that isn't kind. If we can stop for a moment and connect with that Christ in them and send them love energetically, right? From our heart and our place of knowing that we are one. Perhaps, not always, but perhaps then that pupil who was not a student or a teacher before this moment, perhaps now that pupil will pause and say, oh, I just saw someone that used to look different than me. I just saw someone as myself. Because when you see someone as yourself,
Mm.
then they have the opportunity to see you as themselves. And where they were attacking before out of fear, now they see something different that they didn't expect to see. You didn't attack back. Instead, you gave them love, and they're like, whoa, what just happened? What happened here? I just saw in this person something that I felt in myself. And now they become the student, and now the teacher in them is ready, right? So that's how we affect the change.
Yes.
And
Yes. And when you're in that crossroad or that cross where you are feeling perhaps anger for that person, then that's what that person is picking up on. And it's
Right.
at that cross when you say to yourself, okay, well, I'm sending love to this person no matter what, even if it sounds mechanical, as somebody said to me, even if it's mechanical. I go, well, what do you mean by that mechanical? That I don't mean it. I said, well, yeah, even if you don't mean it, exactly, yes, do it anyway. See what happens.
Even the Course says that if someone asks you to do something that seems ridiculous, do it anyway because they asked you. Because it is meaningless in the true sense of the illusion of the world, right? It is meaningless because this is part of the projection of the illusion.
Yeah, that's a great part of the course there you're talking about, Terry. And it just qualifies that it's like, well, don't do something that you're going to harm yourself. But to not do it is to then make in that person's eyes like, oh, I'm not worth him or her. They don't respect me, they don't honor me, they don't love me enough to do that. So what they're saying is just a bunch of BS. So we don't buy into it. It's the cake is let's say not the frosting, but you're going to go ahead and put the frosting on the cake anyway.
It's going to change you, even if you know what I'm saying. Like it creates that it takes away that anger from the person, from you yourself, and that's the key to. That is what I believe happens. Then the other person picks up on that vibe. It's the whole thing of fear. If you're afraid of a dog, that fear is going. He's going to check that out.
Well, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example that I'm talking about that I'm having a problem with, and that is, for example, what's going on in LA right now. The people who are intervening to try to keep harm from coming to immigrants, and how am I supposed to not have judgment against those who are causing harm? How do I send those people up? They don't know if I love them or not. The immigrants don't even know. But if I'm standing up on principle for the immigrants, am I judging the others? That's where I get caught up.
Right, right. So if you think of it this way, all minds are joined.
Yes.
And you're not in LA, so there's nothing you can do, right?
Mhm.
You can become a keyboard warrior, maybe, and maybe that would make maybe you could be justified in your anger, right? But what is that actually going to do? That's going to ignite one side against the other again, right? And there's always two sides within the illusion, right? There's always duality. So the only way you can actually affect true change is mind to mind. Connect with the minds of all of your brothers in Los Angeles, the ones that are being attacked, the ones that are afraid. I mean, just send all of them love. Everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And
good.
then you can actually create change.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because just this morning, as I was waiting for my oil to be changed in my car, people started coming in. I get there early because I want to be number one. That's my thing. But anyway, just as people start coming in, boom, the first thing a guy talks about, because the TV was on and they were showing some of that action. First thing he says, oh God, I can't, let me see if I could, I'm trying to do it justice. He was on the side of, he's like, can you believe that these government people are trying to help or are creating chaos? They don't want help, to combat this problem there. And immediately I was like, whoa, okay. I look up, I say, God, what happened, right? I thought I was having peacefulness here.
Right.
The guy triggered me, right? And I realized, nope, don't engage that madness. I said, nope. I said, just send this guy love. Believe it or not, he stopped talking about it. Yeah. It was weird the way he just stopped talking about it. As soon as I changed my demeanor and just like I said, I'm gonna send love to this guy. He needs it bad.
So what
And,
did you?
and I could be judging him too. I mean, he might not want all that love, but it doesn't matter. Because it calmed me down.
So you said
Alright.
nothing. You said
No, I said nothing. Exactly. I just in my mind send him love. Boom. That's it. And for me, it gets easier. I don't feel like it's so mechanical anymore because I believe that it works. And it
You
did.
have evidence, yeah,
I have evidence. Exactly.
yeah.
And let's face it, our early conditioning was all based in fear. We are all a product of our early conditioning, which was fear-based,
Mm,
right? So the whole thing is an undoing, which is the entire purpose of the 365 lessons. Undo, 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 right? And then relearn, reprogram, recommit to a way of being in the world that's actually effectual, right?
It is effectual. That's where we'll put.
I appreciate you indulging me. I know I've brought this up before. It's just my sticking point, and I'm sorry I may have to revisit it again, but
Oh,
thank
it's
you.
No,
everybody,
nothing to be sorry for. No, nothing to
Yeah,
be
don't
sorry
be
for.
sorry.
We were
But
talking about it
perfect.
before the lesson started.
We were talking about it in the first half an hour.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking
Well, yeah.
about. So,
Oh, God. You people are negative. I don't like this class. Remember,
That's a judgment.
always, and Gail, the biggest recommendation, and I've been doing this for longer than most people have been alive, is always try to open up to where there's humor in the background, where you can
Yeah.
bring that in. And if you can say that, it could be something ridiculous.
There's
I don't know.
Carl
I'm
and
not
Liz.
going to put anything out. I mean, Ernesto, I don't know what you would have said to you. Could you have joked about? I just think they should just drop a nuclear bomb on the whole
Well,
place.
I mean,
That would have probably
yes.
would have said, yeah.
And there are times I do this. There are times actually that I'm saying something serious and people are laughing as if it was a joke. And I go, oh, well, that worked as a joke.
There you go. Perfect.
That really blows me
Yeah.
away sometimes. It's like, and everybody start laughing. It's like everybody thinks it's a joke.
That's
Whereas there are
Carl
times,
made a career on it.
well, and so there are times that I'm trying to be funny, man, and it falls flat. Okay.
Yeah.
So now I try to just say, you know what? Just say whatever you think. Not going to hurt anybody. That's what I tried to. But anyway.
And of Course in Miracles says this whole separation started the moment we forgot to laugh.
Oh yeah.
We took it
Yeah.
way
it
too
does.
seriously.
Mhm. And the best thing to joke about yourself, make a joke
Yeah.
about you.
Mm-hmm. We were talking earlier about the telepathy tapes. I know I've shared that with a lot of you. And not to be not to like share something that you guys don't want to hear yet because it's like amazing, the telepathy tapes, but it really gets into how this world is an illusion. These kids are connecting with each other on a different plane. And not only are they connecting with each other on a different plane, they're connecting with spirits who are not in a body. So it's amazing when you get to that place and you're like, oh, okay. So this really is an illusion.
Did you say the telepathy tapes?
Yes.
Where is that? YouTube?
It's a podcast. You can get it on YouTube. You can get it on any place you get your podcasts. It's basically these tapes about these children with autism, specifically non-speakers, or people who have very limited ability to speak, and how they're communicating telepathically and sharing just amazing information about their access of the collective consciousness, their access to time as an illusion. Time as an illusion, that they've been shown how time is an illusion. It's incredible.
Right. And so
It's incredible.
the things that I'm reading talk about that the whole telepathic spirit thing is our multidimensional self.
Right.
Mm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then when you get into what's happening in the world and the chaos And you realize this is already over. It's not even really happening when you talk about it from a time perspective, right? That our attention gets drawn there. And the attention is where the power is, right? So we want to take the power away from it and refocus it with love and then re-engage, right? It's all about love or fear. If we can just disconnect from fear, engage in love, and take all of that energy and put it back into the consciousness, then we have heaven on earth, right? That's what we just read. So it's just nice to be able to listen to some of these other things to kind of pull us out of the drama that is happening here so that we can say, okay, it's bigger than this, so much bigger. Let's connect with something that actually makes sense, where we can actually create effectual change to a situation. All right, well, it gets into our next section of reading. How should the teacher of God spend his day?
Well,
All right. To the advanced teacher of God, this question is meaningless. There is no program, for the lessons change each day. Yet the teacher of God is sure of but one thing: they do not change at random. Seeing this and understanding that it is true, he rests content. He will be told all that his role should be this day and every day, and those who share that role with him will find him, so they can learn the lessons for the day together. No one is absent whom he needs. Not one is sent without a learning goal already set, and one which can be learned that very day. For the advanced teacher of God, then, this question is superfluous. It has been asked and answered, and he keeps in constant contact with the answer. He is set and sees the road on which he walks stretch surely and smoothly before him. But what about those who have not reached his certainty? They're not yet ready for such lack of structuring on their own part. What must they do to learn to give the day to God? There are some general rules which do apply, although each one must use them as best he can in his own way. Routines, as such, are dangerous because they easily become gods in their own right, threatening the very goals for which they were set up. Broadly speaking, then, it can be said that it is well to start the day right. It is always possible to begin again, should the day begin with error. Yet there are obvious advantages in terms of saving time. At the beginning, it is wise to think in terms of time. This is by no means the ultimate criterion, but at the outset, it is probably the simplest to observe. The saving of time is an essential early emphasis, which, although it remains important throughout the learning process, becomes less and less emphasized. At the outset, we can safely say that time devoted to starting the day right does indeed save time. How much time should be so spent? This must depend on the teacher of God himself. He cannot claim that title until he has gone through the workbook, since we are learning within the framework of our course. After completion of the more structured practice periods, which the workbook contains, individual need becomes the chief consideration. This course is always practical. It may be that the teacher of God is not in a situation that fosters quiet thought as he awakes. If this is so, let him but remember that he chooses to spend time with God as soon as possible, and let him do so. Duration is not the major concern. One can easily sit an hour with closed eyes and accomplish nothing. One can as easily give God only an instant, and in that instant join with him completely. Perhaps the one generalization that can be made is this: as soon as possible after waking, take your quiet time, continuing a minute or two after you begin to find it difficult. You may find that the difficulty will diminish and drop away. If not, that is the time to stop. The same procedure should be followed at night. Perhaps your quiet time should be fairly early in the evening. If it is not feasible for you to take it just before going to sleep, it is not wise to lie down for it. It is better to sit up, in whatever position you prefer. Having gone through the workbook, you must have come to some conclusions in this respect. If possible, however, just before going to sleep is a desirable time to devote to God. It sets your mind into a pattern of rest and orients you away from fear. If it is expedient to spend this time earlier, at least be sure that you do not forget a brief period. Not more than a moment will do, in which you close your eyes and think of God. There is one thought in particular that should be remembered throughout the day. It is a thought of pure joy, a thought of peace, a thought of limitless release, limitless because all things are freed within it. You think you made a place of safety for yourself. You think you made a power that can save you from all the fearful things you see in dreams. It is not so. Your safety lies not there. What you give up is merely the illusion of protecting illusions. And it is this you fear, and only this. How foolish to be so afraid of nothing. Nothing at all. Your defenses will not work, but you are not in danger. You have no need of them. Recognize this and they will disappear. And only then will you accept your real protection. How simply and how easily does time slip by for the teacher of God who has accepted his protection. All that he did before in the name of safety no longer interests him, for he is safe and knows it to be so. He has a guide who will not fail. He need make no distinctions among the problems he perceives, for he to whom he turns with all of them recognizes no order of difficulty in resolving them. He is as safe in the present as he was before illusions were accepted into his mind, and as he will be when he has let them go. There is no difference in his state at different times in different places, because they are all one to God. This is his safety, and he has no need for more than this. Yet there will be temptations along the way the teacher of God has yet to travel, and he has need of reminding himself throughout the day of his protection. How can he do this, particularly during the time when his mind is occupied with external things? He can but try, and his success depends on his conviction that he will succeed. He must be sure success is not of him, but will be given him at any time, in any place and circumstance he calls for it. There are times his certainty will waver, and the instant this occurs, he will return to earlier attempts to place reliance on himself alone. Forget not, this is magic, and magic is a sorry substitute for true assistance. It is not good enough for God's teacher, because it is not enough for God's son. The avoidance of magic is the avoidance of temptation, for all temptation is nothing more than the attempt to substitute another will for God's. These attempts may indeed seem frightening, but they are merely pathetic. They can have no effects, neither good nor bad, neither rewarding nor demanding sacrifice, healing nor destructive, quieting nor fearful. When all magic is recognized as merely nothing, the teacher of God has reached the most advanced state. All intermediate lessons will but lead to this and bring this goal nearer to recognition. For magic of any kind, in all its forms, simply does nothing. Its powerlessness is the reason it can be so easily escaped. What has no effects can hardly terrify. There is no substitute for the will of God. In simple statement, it is to this fact that the teacher of God devotes his day. Each substitute he may accept as real can but deceive him. But he is safe from all deception if he so decides. Perhaps he needs to remember God is with me. I cannot be deceived. Perhaps he prefers other words, or only one, or none at all. Yet each temptation to accept magic as true must be abandoned through his recognition. Not that it is fearful, not that it is sinful, not that it is dangerous, but merely that it is meaningless, rooted in sacrifice and separation, two aspects of one error and no more. He merely chooses to give up all that he never had, and for his sacrifice is heaven restored to his awareness. Is not this an exchange that you would want? The world would gladly make it if it knew it could be made. It is God's teachers who must teach it that it can. And so it is their function to make sure that they have learned it. No risk is possible throughout the day except to put your trust in magic, for it is only this that leads to pain. There is no will but God's. His teachers know that this is so, and have learned that everything but this is magic. All belief in magic is maintained by just one simple-minded illusion, that it works. All through their training, every day and every hour and every minute and second, must God's teachers learn to recognize the forms of magic and perceive their meaninglessness. Fear is withdrawn from them, and so they go. And thus the gate of heaven is reopened, and its
Wow.
light can shine again on the untroubled mind.
A big sigh of relief. There you go. There's the answer.
Yep. And how many times do we ask God for help or intervene or with the Holy Spirit or connect to the mind of God? Right? That's the real question.
I'm using goddess now.
A lot more recently.
I'm saying goddess. I changed my
Goddess. All right. I love it.
and I have to do it often because every time I say, "Oh God," I say, "Oh no, you're saying goddess now. Look out."
Yeah. Wow.
Any thoughts come up for anyone with this?
What we were talking about, exactly what we were talking about, right? That if you just rely on that peace as always bringing it forth, because it's needed most when we fall back into the angst. As soon as we have that, the whole, right? The whole thing.
Yeah.
If you could just flip it for yourself, then I think that's what he was saying. But how many? My God, 11 paragraphs.
Yeah.
Holy moly!
Yeah, and Course in Miracles says, whenever you are not experiencing joy, something has gone wrong. You've aligned with fear.
Yep.
Talk about magic and what they mean by that, if you don't mind.
So I think they stated it in the last paragraph, right? They said, oh, sorry, I'm on the next one.
They stated in 9.
Was it 9?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The avoidance of magic is the avoidance of temptation.
Yeah.
But that doesn't say what magic is to me.
In sentence 5, it says, when all magic is recognized as merely nothing, and I would underline nothing, the teacher of God has reached the most advanced state. So we have to see that anything that we do in this world is simply refrosting the cake or something I brought up earlier. I mean, it's like the essence of what we are is spirit, which is given to us by God. We were created in that. We've always existed in that. There was never a beginning point, and there will never be an ending point. And that's intellectually is incomprehensible, but it's the truth. And so when you rest in that, and he says many times that you're rest in God, it means to let go, continuously let go, and then realize when we're hooked that, oh God, yeah, here I'm making a judgment. Blah, blah. Anytime, what did he say in the Bible? Judge not, lest ye be judged. Because what happens is not that anybody else is judging you, it's you that have limited yourself instead of instead of this unbelievable connection to all the power in the universe. You brought it down to your body, and we're not these bodies, and that's another one that's hard. But I've told my kids many times that, hey, this is nothing.
If
So,
you look
yeah,
in
anyway.
paragraph 11, sentence number 6, it says, there is no will but God's.
Yes.
His
Mm,
teachers
yeah.
know that this is so and have learned that everything but this is magic.
Yes.
Mhm.
So if
Yeah.
it's not God's will, it's magic.
I guess I'm questioning the use of the word magic as a negative, because if I see a beautiful sunset, I think, oh, that's magical. If there's a spontaneous healing, I think of that as magical or miraculous, kind of on the same thing. And I'm puzzled by the use of that word in particular. All the rest I get, it's just that word.
Yeah, I think it goes back to, again,
Mm.
all words are symbols of symbols.
Mm.
So you've used you in your mind, magic symbolizes beauty. In other
Yeah.
people's mind, magic might symbolize doing drugs. They get a magic feeling, there's the word magic can be used for feelings of euphoria that
Mhm.
maybe aren't necessarily associated with the grandeur of God.
Okay.
Okay, so I
Good.
think what they're
Wow.
saying is magic associated with a feeling of euphoria that doesn't include or encompass the grandeur of God is what they're talking about. They're saying that,
Mm.
if you could say that in your mind magic is the grandeur of God, then that's a symbol of a symbol, right?
Mhm.
So I
Magic's in
can,
the glossary.
yeah, it is. I'll read it right now. I'm just pulling it out. So in the glossary, it says magic is the attempt to solve a problem where it is not, trying to solve a problem in the mind through physical or mindless measures. The ego's strategy is to keep the real problem, the belief in separation, from God's answer. Guilt is projected outside our minds onto others in the form of attack, or our bodies in the form of sickness, and sought to be corrected there by magic rather
Mm.
than being undone in our minds by bringing it to the Holy Spirit. It's referred to as false healing in the Song of Prayer.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, this
Good.
glossary that you're reading from, is that in the Course in Miracles?
Yeah, this is part of a bigger edition. So it's it's from Kenneth Wapnick, the Foundation for A Course in Miracles.
Okay.
And it's a separate piece for me. I don't know if some books
Okay. I
have it
I
included or
don't think I
not.
have that. Yeah. I need to get it. Thank you.
And
And it's helpful.
if
Mhm.
you notice more recently, magicians are not calling themselves magicians anymore. They're calling themselves illusionists.
Yes.
Ooh,
Ah, yeah.
that
Good.
was a perfect analogy. Thank you for that, Ernesto.
Yeah.
Excellent. There you go.
Yeah. Big
Yeah,
props. Yes.
excellent. Well, it's 1:30, so this is usually the time I like to close, but does
Mm.
anybody have any burning shares they'd like to add before we say goodbye until next week?
Mm. Well, it's all spoken in love, and so, if I said something, or anyone says anything that's like that, you could take it and like, oh, he thinks is special, or she thinks or whatever. it's not about that. So, you know, I think we're all together in this. So we're only here to love. And I mean, that's swelling up inside of me as I say that. That's the only reason we're here, is to let go of everything else and love. And so when we see or feel any resistance whatsoever, okay, I got to deal with that. I got to let go of that. So it's a continuous letting go. Like the old expression with letting go and letting God. It's
Mhm.
a little bit trite, but no, not if you really,
1,000 opportunities a day.
yeah. Anyway,
Thank you for that,
so,
Tim.
yeah, so much love to all of you.
All right, everyone. Thank you. And thank you, Tim, for
you.
sharing that. I will see you all next week. Thanks for
Thank you,
joining.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.